Do not get flippant with me, Mindbender. Where is Cobra Commander?
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another marvelous video. Today we have something special for all the G.I Joe fans out there. We're going to take a look at one of the most fascinating antagonists from the series. He's not just any villain. He's basically a concoction of all of history's most notorious leaders, brought back to life to serve as a formidable adversary. If you guys haven't guessed who I'm talking about, well, it's none other than Serpentor. So sit back and enjoy as we unravel the story behind this amazing character. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
No negotiation, you insolent microbe! I am not symbolic!
Who is Serpentor? Serpentor was born from a secret plot within Cobra to create the ultimate soldier. Led by Dr. Mindbender and Destro, a team of Cobra scientists raided the tombs of history's greatest warriors, collecting every scrap of DNA they could find. With Mindbender's expertise, they kind of imbued Serpentor with all the experiences that these men have had. Because of all this, he was an extremely courageous and daring person, was well aware of politics, could fight amazingly, and was basically a military genius. He's kind of even better at fighting than the Cobra Commander. But there was one fatal flaw in his design. Remember all these men they collected DNA from? Well, these men were not just leaders. Some of them happened to be ruthless and extremely ambitious. That kind of bled into Serpentor's character too, so the call for conquest has always been within him, right from the beginning. Serpentor's role in the comics. The Marvel Comics version of Serpentor brings a different dimension to this character. In Marvel's G.I Joe, A Real American Hero comics, Serpentor made his first appearance in issue number 49 back in July 1986. Unlike his animated counterpart, he was not created to replace Cobra Commander, at least not at first. Instead, he was designed as a super soldier, meant to lead troops. So his origin story is also kinda different here. Let's take a look at it. Dr. Mindbender, with help from Destro, went on a DNA heist, raiding the tombs of some of history's greatest warriors. They even used the body of the Cobra traitor Storm Shadow to complete the mix. Mindbender combined all of this genetic material in a vat, infused Serpentor with his own knowledge and loyalty, and let the experiment grow in Cobra's secret town of Springfield. His birth could not have been more dramatic. The G.I Joe team launched an attack on Springfield just as he did. Instead of sitting back and letting the others fight for him, he volunteered to lead the Cobra troops. From the moment he stepped onto the battlefield, he showed the ability to predict and counter their moves. The troops immediately liked him, and he helped them escape from there. He could have been left behind, but Destro, recognizing his value, made sure he got out safely. When he reached Cobra Island, the power struggle with the Cobra Commander started immediately. Cobra Commander saw him as a threat and tried to assassinate him multiple times. But Serpentor was no fool. He was always one step ahead. He used every attempt against him to strengthen his position, ensuring that Cobra would be thrown into chaos if he were ever taken out. Cobra Commander even resorted to hiring Zartan and the Dreadnoks to disguise themselves as Joes and take Serpentor out. But Destro ruined this plan. Serpentor turned the situation to his advantage again, using the failed assassination attempt as an excuse to launch an attack on the Joe base, the pit. This assault turned into a messy competition between Serpentor and Cobra Commander, each trying to outshine the other. But Serpentor had the upper hand. He tricked Cobra Commander into leading an attack deep inside the pit, only for the Joes to detonate explosives, trapping Cobra Commander inside. With his rival missing and presumed dead, he seized control of Cobra and wasted no time expanding its operations. With him as the leader, Cobra started selling weapons and terror drones to different countries, each setting up a consulate in New York to operate under diplomatic immunity. He continued leading missions in the field, which included an attempt to stop the Joes from capturing parts of a terror drone in Sierra Gordo. He even joined hands with the Transformers, partnering with the Decepticons to gain control of Power Station Alpha. But when it became clear the Decepticons planned to use the station to destroy the Earth, he switched sides, joining with the Autobots and G.I Joe to stop them. One of Serpentor's biggest mistakes was replacing the Baroness with Zarana as the head of Cobra operations in New York. You'll get to know why soon. A mysterious man soon came to Cobra Island, claiming that he was the real Cobra commander. He passed every test, but Serpentor was not convinced. The Baroness, who had seen Cobra Commander without his mask, was brought in to verify his identity, and, to Serpentor's frustration, she confirmed his identity. Not willing to give up power so easily, Serpentor forced Cobra Commander to lead a mission into space, hoping he would not survive. But the plan backfired when he proved himself and gained the loyalty of Cobra's forces. Serpentor and Mindbender soon discovered the truth. This was not the original Cobra Commander at all, but an imposter named Fred VII. However, Fred had already won over the troops, so they decided to play along. Serpentor kept scheming to take control of Cobra, but what he didn't know was that Fred had installed a spy camera in one of his BAT bodyguards. Mindbender developed a new super soldier called the Star Viper, who successfully infiltrated the Joe's base and stole a top-secret decoder black box. When Star Viper returned to Cobra Island, he was welcomed very warmly. Soon, the tensions between Serpentor and Fred finally got worse, which started the Cobra Civil War. Realizing they were outnumbered, Serpentor and Mindbender came up with a plan. Mindbender traveled to the US with the stolen black box to strike a deal. The US government, after carefully considering the options, decided that Serpentor, as a constitutional monarch, was less dangerous than Cobra Commander, a full-blown fascist dictator. So the US military actually backed Serpentor, sending a full team of Joes to support him. But even with reinforcements, things were getting messy. Serpentor became even more ruthless. He even used the Baroness as a human shield, tying her to his hiss tank. When it seemed like Serpentor was winning, a third group came into this mess: Destro and his forces. With Cobra split three ways, Serpentor reluctantly agreed to a joint command with Hawk to take down Fred's forces. At first, it seemed like Serpentor won. He had Fred's forces trapped, and his confidence was through the roof. But then, Zartan saw an opening. As Serpentor stood there awaiting his victory, Zartan fired an arrow. Serpentor barely had time to react before it hit him straight through the eye, and just like that, the Cobra Civil War ended with his death. Mindbender quickly struck a deal with Fred and took his body for future use. Pretty interesting, right? Leaves open the possibility that he could just turn up whenever.
Then start by deciding where you want to be buried.
Serpentor in animation. Serpentor burst onto the scene in the second season of the original 1980s animated series G.I Joe, A Real American Hero, and immediately took the show to a whole new level of awesome. He's not just another Cobra lackey. He's the guy who literally kicked the Cobra Commander off his throne. If you grew up watching G.I Joe, A Real American Hero, you probably remember him as the over-the-top, shouting, "This I command" villain. And yeah, he was definitely a pain for both the Joes and his own allies. The whole thing started when Dr. Mindbender, Destro, and the Crimson Twins got completely fed up with Cobra Commander's constant failures. I mean, how many times can one guy in a hood shout retreat before you start looking for new management, right? Their solution? Create a super leader using the DNA of history's greatest conquerors. They collected genetic material from Alexander the Great, Ivan the Terrible, Napoleon, Rasputin, Caesar, and many more. So they almost got Sun Tzu's DNA too, but our GI heroes managed to stop that part of the plan. Instead, they ended up using DNA from the legendary Joe trainer, Sergeant Slaughter himself. Now, because they failed to get Sun Tzu's DNA, our antagonist is kinda overbearing and intolerant, and also impulsive. The first attempt to create Serpentor did not go as planned. thanks to Cobra Commander. Not wanting to be replaced, he secretly sabotaged the process by dumping a mutant virus into the DNA chamber containing Sergeant Slaughter's genetic material. The result? A horrifying monster that went on a rampage across Cobra Island before ultimately dissolving into nothing. But Dr. Mindbender was not about to give up. Scrap Iron betrays Cobra Commander by exposing the sabotage to Mindbender. With that knowledge, the experiment was properly executed after Cobra successfully recaptured Sergeant Slaughter, and this time, it worked. Serpentor was finally born. Unlike Cobra Commander, who prefers to scheme from the shadows, Serpentor is not afraid to lead from the front. The moment he's brought to life and given his signature armor, he makes his stance clear. He is not just a figurehead. When Cobra Commander suggests otherwise, Serpentor knocks him to the ground without any hesitation. Right after that, he jumps into a fight with Sergeant Slaughter, showing off the strength he inherited from the Sergeant's DNA. As he fights Slaughter through the Terrordrome, he's introduced to the Televipers and Crimson Guard, but before he can finish his fight, G.I Joe forces arrive and extract Slaughter, leaving Serpentor to fend off attacks from Cobra's own BATs. His first major move as Cobra's leader? A full-scale assault on Washington, D.C. He actually manages to do this and demands the surrender of the President, Congress, and G.I Joe. But the President and Vice President are not even in town. The Joes regroup and fight back, turning Serpentor's plan into a total disaster. But when it seems like Cobra is about to lose, a surprise burst of gunfire forces G.I Joe to retreat. And who is responsible for this? Well, it's none other than the Cobra Commander. The former leader plays his cards right, convincing Serpentor to let him take the fall for the operation's failure, feeding into Serpentor's obsession with perfection. Serpentor, powers and abilities. What made Serpentor such a fun character was not just his cool snake-themed outfit or his flying chariot, though those were pretty awesome. It was his massive ego and his ruthless approach to leadership. This guy was pretentious and arrogant and treated everyone like they were beneath him. He treated Cobra Commander like dirt, yelled at his henchmen constantly, and didn't even show gratitude to the guy who created him, Dr. Mindbender. He always kinda walks around looking like he's angry all the time. Because he has the memories of all those he has the DNA of, he always walks around believing that he is a true emperor. I mean, it makes sense he would think like that. Most of his donors were tyrants, emperors, and dictators. He is extremely strong, and as we've already discussed, very politically savvy, and fights very well. Because of his donors, his ability to strategize is amazing, but this ability also kinda drives him a little insane. So it's not just the DNA and the memories he has from his donors. He also seems to have all the skills that they used to, only he's too impatient to actually use them. Another really cool thing he can do is that he can basically change his face to resemble any of the people whose DNA was used to make him. Really cool, right? Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, guys, we've come to the end of yet another marvelous video. I hope you guys had fun going through this character with me. Some of you might love him, some might not, but there's no denying that he left a mark. What do you guys think about his character? Imagine if he actually had Sun Tzu's DNA too. Would that have been better? Or would you prefer this version? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.
Behind this, after all?